Hey guys, it's me, Vix123, with some Team Care Package gameplay, and some of you might be sat there thinking, what the heck, how does this work? And a couple of you might be sat there thinking, oh yeah, I remember this from previous COD games, this is going to be some nice gameplay. So the way this works is, basically, I'm only allowed to get kills with kill streak rewards from care packages. So my team are just playing the game and they're just spamming care packages back to me. I've got a bit of a care package factory going on, going to set up my own little fortress back here and just rain down on the enemy team with kill streaks. I'm playing with some really beast players here, so shout out to all of them. And I know some people will be like, oh my god, it's not fair, you make your teammates give you all the care packages, you're shut up, unsubbed. But this was a fun thing to do, and actually my teammates said that they enjoyed it, and it was a great way to get XP, because I actually got a decent amount of XP from the share package. And yeah, so that is the gameplay, Team Care Package. I hope you guys enjoy. You're just going to basically see me raining down on the enemy with kill streak rewards for the next 12 minutes or so. And yeah, this is the long video, and my aim is just to keep people engaged for the video. I know a lot of people will have already clicked off the video and even made it past the introduction, but this is going to be a cool video, so stay tuned for this, because usually I'll avoid commentary over 10 minutes unless it's a Q&A and I've got a lot of content to cover. Because usually I'll just end up rambling on, but today I thought I'll do some reading up, I'll do some research, I'll do some preparation, and I have a pretty cool thing I wanted to share with you. So I'm basically going to share with you an interview, and then I'm going to give my thoughts on it and let you guys give yours. So okay, so you made the decision to watch this video, right? Well, I'm going to use an interview to explain why your sense of self is merely an illusion. So without much further ado, I'm going to jump straight into this. Okay, so we commonly believe in the idea of self, an individual making decisions in our heads, but there may be a different view. Okay, so neuroscience gives a big clue as to what's going on when we make a decision, such as, I will pick up that cup of coffee. We feel that someone, ourself, has initiated that decision. We think we have the mental thought first and then the action follows, but we now know from neuroscience that it can be the other way around. Something in our body wants a cup of coffee, and the motor system inside our brain prepares for the movement. It's about half a second later when we get this conscious thought, I'll pick up that coffee. In fact, a lot of consciousness is after the fact. This shows us that what we think of ourselves making a decision is not actually what it seems. So you may be wondering, well, how exactly do we make decisions? So there are kind of a multitude of influences. There's absolutely loads of influences that contribute to our decisions, and a lot of these are unconscious. We won't even realise they're happening. And we get the output of those influences, and then we interpret it as a decision we've made, something we feel that we've done. And you can imagine kind of these influences as strands of a web, and our perception is in the middle. Our perception of ourself is just in the middle of this web. It's the structure that emerges from all of the competing factors. And a great way to describe this or explain this is by considering a visual illusion. Okay, so take an illusion. Picture this in your head with me. So you've got a square, but this square is made out of the edges of other shapes. So essentially there's nothing there, although our brain interprets that as a square. We see that as a square, even though there's no square actually there. And the mind, the self, is basically the same. We, imagine we picture this self that exists, but in actual fact, it doesn't exist. It's just, in the middle of the web of influences around it. Okay, to give you guys a bit more understanding, I'm going to explain kind of what makes up these influences that, surround a person's quote-unquote self. And most of these are actually unconscious, and they're unconscious influences from the past that we wouldn't even, consider would come into play when we make decisions. And they're, influences that come at the time, things you sense, things you hear, you see, that kind of stuff. And, some of it even they've proven to come down to just genetics and genes and just the way kind of you are as a person. So, you have a lot less control over these decisions as you might have thought. And, this might be a point for some people to chime in with, karma, everything happens for a reason, we're not in control, we're just kind of taking a ride. But at the same time, we do have a degree of control. But one thing that's, questioned is, does this interpretation of ourself make us kind of very fragile as people? And actually, there's a great example of this. If you think about people drinking alcohol, in a city centre on the weekend, drinking alcohol, and alcohol affects the frontal lobes of the brain involved with planning and things like that. And, people often say, I wasn't myself, or I was drunk, I didn't know what I was doing, that kind of stuff. And that really does kind of affect where what happens to a person's own self. They've vacated their body, gone somewhere else. Clearly, they haven't gone anywhere. It's just that their coherent sense of being an upstanding citizen has been compromised by the fact that a drug can fragment our control processes. Okay, so at this point you may be feeling a little insignificant, a little bit selfless, a little bit unable to make decisions, but it's kind of not as drastic as it may seem. It's just a different way to look at the way we make decisions. And, ultimately we are still, really malleable. We can change the influences around us. We can be very easily influenced by other people. We can influence other people in the same way. And, you could go into a whole tangent about hypnosis and that kind of stuff, and making people make those subconscious decisions, which I'm not going to go into right now. But, it's we can't be fooled into thinking that there is an individual inhabiting the body with a complete free will over what's happening. And I think everyone knows that. We don't have full control. And you might be wondering, well, how can knowledge of this self as an illusion help us? And actually, if you look into the science of it, much of the world, much of what we see is an illusion to us. We are blind for 3 to 4 hours of every day, and every time we move our eyes, the world shuts off, and we're never aware of it. What the eyes do is actually amazing. The eyes see a kind of, in detail, a very, very small portion. It's, I can't really compare it to a distance because it's, subjective to what you're focusing on. But actually, if you were just to see exactly what you saw from your eyes, you'd see kind of 2 points of very high detail, and then everything else would be kind of blurred and black and white without colour. And our brain basically puts together all of that information to process the world we see around us. And basically, the brain creates an optimal way of seeing the world, and so you can't really get rid of the self, but you've got to understand that we're a complex system, and that produces this output, and it helps us to understand bizarre behaviour, explains why people go off the rails. There are all of these impulses, these hidden drives, and at times, occasionally emerge at times of heightened stress and intoxication. You'll see facets of personality that most people try and keep under wraps. So it just gives an idea of how complex we are as human beings. And not only do all of these things happen, but all of these influences will be infinitely different in every single person you meet. And I think that's almost a miracle in itself. How crazy is it to think that, decision making in every single person is, you won't find 2 people who have the ultimate identical decision making pattern. And now this is what I want to finish with. I think this is a great paragraph to end on. So, okay. Is thinking of the self in this way a means to be less harsh to ourselves? And okay, so here we go, listen to this. In the West, we tend to heap lots of praise and lots of blame on individuals. People in the East tend to be more collectivist. I'm not here to advocate one system over the other, but in our Western culture we are all too quick to call others losers when there are so many factors that could explain why they haven't managed to achieve like everyone else. I think that's just a perfect note to end that on. So that's, all of the information I wanted to cover. I hope you found it insightful, interesting, and, I think that last point couldn't be any truer, especially with the way audiences are on YouTube. And if I can make even the slightest change to the couple of people on my videos that, will kind of be really quick to jump to conclusions, then I'll have felt like I've done a good thing, because there are a lot of people that will so quickly jump to a conclusion about, make a judgment straight away without even considering anything else. I mean, I'm a person who puts a lot of myself under scrutiny, in my videos that go out publicly to lots of people, in my tweets that go out publicly to lots of people, and I'm fine with doing that. But a lot of the time, I'll have people make these snappy, one-thought judgments on me just through one of my tweets, one thing I post out, one thing I decide to share, and I just, disagree with that so much. They're like, oh, you play this, you suck, you've got no life because you play that game, or some, who's to judge that? Who is to judge what one person does over another? I just think it's absolutely... It's a terrible thing, and I think it happens too much, but... I think as a whole, that article about the self is really interesting because I've never really looked at it in that way, as a sense of just not being an individual able to make controls. I mean, I've always had those, those thoughts that, what if we don't actually make any decisions? What if everything's already pre-programmed, pre-planned? It's all destiny. Destiny. And actually, there's also another little scenario I like to play out in my head that I always find amusing, and it could be, what if I'm the only person who's actually conscious? What if everything else is virtual, everything else isn't real? People I talk to, they don't actually respond because they've engaged with what I'm saying. They've just responded because they were planned to, they were programmed to, and I'm actually the only person in the world who thinks, and everything else is just a kind of illusion surrounding me. And in the same way, that could be you. I'm talking to you right now. I might not be thinking, this just might be pre-programmed information coming at you through a visual illusion, and you're the actual only real person. Because you never know. You never know. It's a really random point of view to take, but in the way that the sense of self is an illusion, it just leads you to think, what else could be an illusion? A lot of what we see is kind of illusion patched together by our brain, and who knows, what if you woke up 2 years ago and you found out that the last 2 years of your life have been a dream and you're back where you were 2 years ago? Theoretically, that's completely possible. Anything's possible. But I just kind of trying to throw up a few questions within that. And I think I've talked about most of what I wanted to talk about in this video. I'm a bit short of the end. I'll have probably fast forwarded some of the gameplay to some extent towards the end just to match up with the length of the video. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you're still around, if you stuck through the whole way, that is awesome. I'm glad you're interested in what I have to say. I've put some effort into getting this all structured. I'm ready to present to you guys. It almost feels like a school project, a school presentation on the self as a being. But, hopefully I've done that in an entertaining and interesting way. If you are still around, it'd be great if you could leave a like rating, subscribe if you haven't already, if you're new around here, and feel free to check out any of my other videos in just a moment. Now an outro has popped up on screen. You can use this to check out other videos. Be sure to leave your thoughts in the comment section. I seriously want to hear your thoughts in the comment section, hear what you have to take away from this topic, and I will catch you on my next video.